everybody, welcome back. If you're new here, hi, I'm Mercury. Welcome to my channel. It's my daily vlog, so whatever I'm up to is what you're gonna see here. And today, we're gonna be doing some knitting. I have this Star Wars Knitting the Galaxy book. And I mentioned in another video, we're gonna be working on a pillow that's inspired by R2-d2. How cool is that? So, because this pattern is coming from a book, I'm not going to show the pattern. This is not going to be a how to make this pillow, but I will show you how I do some of the stitches and the general concept of following a pattern. And yeah, this is just what I'm up to today. So this is not a how to make the specific R2-d2 pillow, but I will put a link to where you can get the book in the description of the video. And let's get knitting. So you need 4 colors of yarn to make this. We have this white or off-white, we have a red, gray, and R2-d2 blue, as I like to call it. They are all medium weight yarns. And then we also need a circular needle. So a circular needle is a knitting needle that is connected by a cord. And I just have my counter hanging on the end of it. But whoops, that is a circular needle, which means you can knit a circle basically. And then I have my counter, so if I pause, I know what row I'm on, so I don't lose track. The other thing we need is actually a crochet hook, because we are going to start this out with what's called a provisional cast on. So I'm a little excited because this project has techniques that I've never used before. I have never worked with a provisional cast on, and I've never worked with the type of stitch to bind it off at the end. So I highly doubt I'm finishing this today. But when we get to that end piece too, that'll be a new piece for me. So it's like it starts with a new thing and it ends with a new thing. So we're gonna start with the provisional cast on. And basically what that means is instead of doing a standard cast on to knitting needles, and I'll put a link, I always forget which side it goes on, I'll throw a link up for when I did a tutorial for how to do a cast on. And this is different. We're gonna do a chain of crochets, and then we are going to knit into that chain. And the reason for that is once we finish, we're gonna pull that chain out and we'll have live loops to work from for the way that we're gonna finish this pillow. It's a whole new world for me. We're gonna give it a try. We'll see how it goes. So to do that provisional cast on, we're gonna do a crochet chain. So, like always, we tie our loop. Okay, so it's a slip knot, and we just put that on the hook. And now I'm going to do my chain. I have my chain. So this is going to be the size of the pillow. And then I am going to just cut that, and we are going to just tie that off. Okay. So now we have this whole big chain, right? Now, from what I understand, this side looks like the purl side, right? It's a whole bunch of V's. It looks kind of like a road. So let me show you, right? It's a whole bunch of V's. That is not the side we are knitting into. We're gonna turn it. And the side that's a whole bunch of dashes, right? So that's like the knit side. If this wasn't crochet, if this was knitting, that's like the knit side. That is what we are about to start knitting into. So let me put my counter over there. So what we are going to do is we are going to find this knit, and we are going to pull this through, right? And then we'll find a knit right there, And we're going to pull this through. And so on and so on. Find that knit and pull it through. I don't want to lose that end. There we go. Okay. And then the next one. And the next one. And I'm just going to keep going with this all the way to the end. At this point, I have finished my provisional cast on. So this is the crochet piece along the bottom here. And then I knitted it onto my circular needle. So the next step is to do a row of purl. Purling is just like knitting. So it's the same basic concept, but instead of going frontwise, you go backwise. So for knitting, this would be, the tail would be in the front. For purling, I put the tail in the back. And then I go into the loop to the back, like that. If I was going to knit, it would be in the front here, but I'm going to the back for a purl. I'm going to scoop up that yarn and pull it through and take the loop off. And then same thing. To the back, scoop that yarn and take the loop off. And I am going to keep doing this the whole way down. That is the plan. Okay, so I have my first row on, and that's what it looks like. Now we're going to continue on. So at this point, the pattern is laid out in a grid. It's like pictorial. So I'm just going to follow the pictures, and when I get up to color changes, I'll show you how I do the color changes. So for now, I'm just going to keep going in a stockinette, and I will show you how to do a color change. Okay, so now for the tricky part. Now we're doing some color changes. So this is not an official technique. I am fairly self-taught. My grandma taught me how to knit. She taught me basic knit and purl. And then as I, saw other people knitting and crocheting, I learned that the way she taught me is actually different than the way a lot of other people knit. So because of that, when I'm watching official techniques of how to do certain stitches, it doesn't always match with the way that I knit. So my color change technique is just sort of what works for me, and not necessarily, at least I don't, it could be an actual technique. It's probably a variation of a technique, but it's just, I make it work. That being said, the idea is really joining two yarns and keeping all of the rough work on the wrong side of the project. So any spot where the color change is not smooth, you want that to be on the back side of the fabric, which would be the sides that go straight across, like little dashes, right? You don't want it on the side with the V's. That's usually the right side of the project. So no matter how you end up doing a color change, keep the knots and the weaving and any technique that you're using, keep it on the wrong side of the project. But let me show you how I'm doing it. So I have right now the stitches on this needle that are staying the same color. I have my new color handy. So this is ready to go. I also have here a yarn needle. And a yarn needle is basically, it's a blunted needle. This is very dull, and it has an eye that's big enough for yarn to go through. You could also use a tapestry needle. That's another type of needle, very similar. Sometimes they're curved, but the idea is to have an eye that's big enough for the yarn. And yeah, we're gonna need this to weave the ends of the yarn in. And also my scissor. So, where do we go from here? Okay, I'm gonna pick this up, and for me, this is a purl side, and this is where I get into the I knit different than other people, because for a lot of people, this is the knit side. But for me, this is what I call the purl side. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take my needle, and I'm gonna cut a decent sized tail. Okay. So then this can go out of the way for a moment. And let me get this out of the way and that off to the side. Okay. So from here, we are going to, right now I'm on the purl side, right? So from here, I would have been going through the loop to the back, and I would have been holding this, and I would have scooped this and pulled it through, right? Right. Okay. But we are changing yarns. So I'm going to go through here, and what we are going to do, we're going to put this yarn of the new color over the top. I am going to take this tail and come around and sort of wrap this around like that, and then pull that tail back to the back. And then from here, I am going to, okay, I have to get this out of the way. And then from here, I am going to scoop this and pull that through and take that off. Make sure that this is going to the back. That's super important, because this is the right side of the fabric, so that you need that to go to the back. And then from here, we can do our purls. Right? And we just did our color change. And I had done this on the previous row as well. And something that I do is I like to tie those two tails together. It just makes me feel more secure that it's not gonna unravel. You don't have to. You can just weave those tails in, and that's totally okay. But for me, I like to just sort of make sure everything is nice and tight and secure. So I'm gonna actually tie those tails together. So once I finish knitting to where it's going to color change again, I'm going to pause and tie those together. So this is where my next color change is going to happen. So I'm going to pause, and I'm going to go back over here. So let me just pull this so that I don't lose them off my needle. So I'm going back to here, and this is where we started. I am literally just going to tie a simple double knot. Just go boop, and one more, and I go boop, and that just makes me feel better about it. Like I said, you don't have to, but it just makes me feel better. You can weave these ends in as you go along, and that'll keep it a little more organized. Otherwise, you'll have these like little ponytails until you weave those ends in. So that is how I do my color changes. Again, I don't know if this is an actual technique or if it's a variation of a technique. I know there's like a twist and lock kind of a method, and this might be a variation of that, but this is what works for the way that I was taught how to knit and crochet, or the way I was taught how to knit. So now that we've done that, now let me show you how I weave in these ends. So when you're ready to, you can weave in the ends. You could either do this as you go along, or you could wait until the project is over and then do that at the end. So for now, we're just gonna do this right now. So what you're gonna do, and because we tied these together, you can weave these together. So I like to twist the yarn to thread the needle. See the way that it's like a spiral? I wanna twist it together tighter. So I will twist these yarns and squish them in my fingers. And then I take the eye of the needle, and as I'm squishing them, I push. And I get a little tiny bump through, right? Like, I don't know if you could see that. But it's enough that I can grab it. And that's the key here. You just need enough to grab. So I have that threaded on my yarn needle. And now I'm gonna go at like a 45-degree angle. But when you're doing this, you have to be super careful that you're not pushing through to these stitches on the other side. You only want to go through the dash stitches. You don't want to go through anything that is from the other side. And we go through this at like a 45-degree angle, and it can be approximate. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? And we pull that all through, but I don't want to pull it off the needle at the same time, right? And then I want to go up at another 45-degree angle. So from here, I'm going to go through that one and through this one, through that one and that one, up and through that one. I think that'll be good. And we just pull that on through. Okay, and we give it a little stretch. Now, before I trim this, check it. Check it. So my blue is showing. I don't want my blue to show. I got to redo this. So the easiest way to redo it, take this yarn off the needle, find your stitches. You're actually going to have to find it from this angle because we kind of locked it in at that turn. So we're just going to pull them out. This other one is a little harder because it's the same color. You just kind of have to know where that one is. Okay, and then we're going to go back here. Pull that out. Make sure I got it all. I did. Okay, we're going to do it again, but this time we're going to make sure that we're not pushing through so deep. So I wove in all of the ends. This is like the scrap I trimmed off, but you could see on this side, looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. And then this is the back side, and you're not going to see this side, but you could see the blue tends to show through more on this side. But that's okay, because you won't see this side. So I'm going to continue to work on this, and I'll show you how far I get for the day. This is how much I got done. So, whoops, that's like the yarn from this side is poking through, so I'll pull that out. But it's basically the 2 lower stripes of R2. Well, actually 3, because I did this top part too. So let me stand up and show you. So that is what it looks like. So this is moving along. I got a lot done today, a lot more than I expected to, so that's pretty cool. Based on the speed at which I'm doing this, my guess would be I'll finish the other half of the front side in the next sitting, and then I still have to do the back, and then stuff it with the pillow. So, you know, but yeah, it's coming along. It's coming along. So far, so good. So that's where I'm at. That's what I'm up to. And with that, I am done for today. And I'll see everyone tomorrow. And until then, stay inspired by everyone. Take care.